There are few subjects that make people more uneasy than sex and spirituality in the same sentence. We've been taught to keep them apart. The sacred belongs to heaven, the physical to earth. But what if that division itself is the illusion? What if the very energy we call sexual is the same current that, purified of distortion, becomes the power to perform miracles? A Course in Miracles, one of the most radical spiritual texts of the 20th century, hides within its pages a set of teachings about sex that most editions edited out. They were considered too uncomfortable, too strange, perhaps too holy. Yet those teachings were not a condemnation of the body. They were a map showing how humanity's most private force could either imprison us in separation or awaken us to divine union. Helen Schuckman, the scribe who heard the inner voice of Jesus dictating the Course, resisted these passages. She joked to her colleague, "I will not have sex in my Course." And still, the words came through. When she doubted whether they came from God or her own mind, the voice replied with gentle humor, "God knows you hadn't intended to write a commentary on sex. He does indeed." The implication was clear. Heaven was not embarrassed by the topic. Only we were. The early dictations treat sex and miracles as parallel ways of relating. That single insight overturns centuries of shame. Jesus does not separate the holy from the human. He shows how the same impulse that reaches toward another body is a distorted echo of the miracle drive, the deep unconscious desire to give love. Beneath every urge lies the miracle impulse trying to surface. But as it passes through the ego's filters, it becomes something smaller, more personal, and often more fearful. The body becomes a substitute for the soul's longing. To understand the sexual impulse this way is not to repress it, but to redeem it. The Course says the miracle worker must understand this area, because until we do, our power to love remains confused. We give selectively. We love those who attract us and ignore those who do not. Our supposed love becomes a disguised form of self-service. The miracle, by contrast, is impersonal, non-selective, democratic. It blesses equally because it sees equally. This is why Jesus could say that both sex and miracles are ways of relating. The question is not whether we will relate, but how. In the sex-based mode, we relate as bodies, seeking, comparing, measuring, taking. In the miracle-based mode, we relate as minds, recognizing holiness where the world sees form. The first produces temporary pleasure and inevitable emptiness. The second generates joining so profound that even death cannot undo it. In modern language, we could say that sex is the ego's attempt to simulate union without surrender. It promises intimacy while preserving control. It offers the illusion of joining while maintaining the boundary of self. The body touches, but the mind remains guarded. This is why so much of our passion ends in loneliness. It was never true joining. It was two solitudes colliding in search of relief. The Course goes further, describing how sexual fantasies, those inner movies we call harmless, actually violate the principle of live and let live. In imagination, we make others puppets of our desire, stripping them of choice. It may feel private, but metaphysically it's an act of control. The mind that objectifies, even in thought, cannot truly see. Vision demands reverence, and reverence begins with respect for another's freedom. This does not mean we are to feel guilty for desire. The Course never advocates repression. It invites transformation. When we notice attraction to bodies, we are asked to invite a higher presence, the Holy Spirit or Jesus, to reinterpret it. Release me from this attraction, we might say, and transform it into the impulse to join in mind. The energy does not die, it rises. What sought possession becomes the wish to bless. At the root of this teaching is a breathtaking claim that our truest nature is not lustful, but loving. Beneath all distortion is the miracle impulse, a constant inner urge to give, to heal, to unite. What we call sexual instinct is merely this divine current filtered through the ego's demand for control. And when the filter is removed, the same power that once drove us to possess becomes the force that makes us radiant. Think about it. Every act of genuine care, every unselfish gesture, Every time you looked into another's eyes and saw their innocence, something in you felt like light itself. That was the miracle impulse. Unblocked. You didn't suppress your energy, you transfigured it. That is what the Course means when it says that true self-control is not about putting a lid on passion, but uprooting its misdirection. It is an extraordinary idea that the energy we associate with desire could become the very energy of enlightenment. But it makes perfect sense once you see what happens when it's misused. When love is filtered through fear, it becomes lust. When fear is purified by love, it becomes ecstasy. The difference is not in the body, but in the purpose. The same flame that burns down a house can warm a village. Helen's discomfort with the sexual material mirrors our own collective unease. We are a civilization both obsessed with and ashamed of sex. We glorify it in media and hide it in conversation. The Course slices through both extremes. It does not idolize sex as liberation, nor condemn it as sin. It redefines it as communication, and in that redefinition lies redemption. To communicate truly, we must see the other as more than flesh. The Course calls this respect for the individuality of others. When we reduce people to their utility for our pleasure, we steal their individuality. When we idealize their beauty, we steal it again, because beauty has become currency, not communion. The ego's interest in bodies is always conditional. Do you meet my needs? Miracles ask a different question: how may I serve your reality? Imagine if human relationships shifted to that frequency. Attraction would no longer be based on appearance, but on resonance. Partnership would not depend on matching preferences, but on mutual awakening. The sacred would return to the ordinary, not as prudish denial, but as perceptual clarity. Every encounter would be a chance to meet the Christ in another form. The Course uses a startling image to describe our current condition. We are trees trying to draw nourishment from shallow soil. Our roots go only skin deep, so we keep changing gardens, hoping the next will feed us. We chase novelty, fantasy, dominance, anything to feel alive. But we are dying of spiritual thirst. The water we seek lies deeper than desire. It lies in devotion. Sex, without depth of joining, cannot sustain us. Only miracle-inspired relating can. And yet the Course is not naive. It knows we are not saints overnight. Jesus does not tell Helen and Bill to stop having sex. He acknowledges that growth is gradual. Self-control, he says, is not the whole solution, though I am by no means discouraging its use. The goal is not suppression, but purification. The journey is not from sex to celibacy, but from confusion to clarity, from the hunger to get to the joy of giving. This is why the Course speaks of Mary as the one who, quote, conceived without any lack of love. She symbolizes the highest form of relating, an act of union so selfless that it becomes creative. Whether literal or metaphorical, the point is spiritual. When love is total, creation is holy. That possibility exists in every one of us. The ladder from ego-based sexuality to miracle-based joining has many rungs. At the bottom is the realm of aggression, fantasy, and objectification, love mixed with attack. Above that comes affection mixed with possession, still conditional but gentler. Higher still are relationships that prioritize communication, mutual growth, and true care. At the top is the level of mind, where attraction is the recognition of shared divinity. Each step upward is a movement from fear to freedom. It would be easy to misread the Course as condemning homosexuality or any particular form of love. In reality, it says that love is lacking only to the extent that exclusion is involved. In other words, it is not who you love, but how broadly you love. When attraction is restricted to certain body types or genders, love is narrowed. The invitation is to expand, not to shame. Everybody should love everybody, the Course insists. That sentence could rewrite civilization. To love everybody does not mean to engage sexually with everyone. It means to see all as equally worthy of your miracle impulse, to withdraw the hierarchy of specialness that says some deserve affection and others indifference. The Course calls this the impersonal nature of miracles. Impersonal not because they are cold, but because they bypass the ego's favoritism. They go straight to the universal spark in each being. When you love that, you love rightly. And here lies the most practical reason why the miracle worker must understand sex. Because until this distortion is healed, our ability to channel divine love is compromised. The same energy that could heal the world becomes trapped in selective giving. Jesus warns that selective miracles are dangerous and may destroy the talent. In modern terms, loving only our favorites shuts down the circuitry of grace. The current must flow through all or it stagnates in us. So the teaching is not moral but mechanical. The soul functions on inclusivity. The moment we make exceptions, the flow breaks. The divine heart cannot beat through partiality. Every attraction, every impulse, every fascination is an opportunity to ask, is this miracle energy or ego energy? Am I seeking to join or to use? The honesty of that question can itself become the prayer that transforms us. When we begin to live with that awareness, everything changes. Encounters once charged with tension become serene. We stop reading meaning into glances, stops, silences. The mind ceases to hunt for validation through seduction. We start to recognize that the world's obsession with sexual identity and performance is a symptom of forgetting what we are, beings of limitless creative love who have mistaken energy for appetite. The Course does not ask us to fear the body. It asks us to reinterpret it. The body, it says, is a communication device. It can either transmit messages of separation or messages of joining. In sexual desire, the body is often used to say, "You are incomplete without me." In miracle-mindedness, it says, "We are both already whole." The body itself is neutral. The mind's purpose gives it meaning. This shift in purpose is everything. When the purpose of relationship changes, the experience of pleasure changes too. What once felt driven by craving now feels peaceful, intimate, and alive with mutual blessing. Physical union no longer masks loneliness. It expresses unity already felt. In that sense, the Course restores innocence to sexuality, not by purifying the act, but by purifying perception. We stop confusing the symbol for the source. Yet few teachings are as radical in their simplicity. The Course says that the body's attractiveness depends entirely on how much it serves separation. The moment we use it for communication of truth, the ego loses interest. That is why so many find spiritual awakening disorienting. The old compulsions fall away, not because they are forbidden, but because they are recognized as futile. Love fulfills what lust can only imitate. The real miracle is not that the Course talks about sex. It's that it reveals sex as a clue to the human condition. We seek physical union because we've forgotten spiritual union. We desire bodies because we don't remember minds. Every crush, every fantasy, every moment of longing is a coded message from our soul, saying, "You are still looking for God, but you think God is someone's skin." Once you decode that message, attraction becomes sacred curiosity rather than hunger. Imagine a civilization that truly understood this. Our art would change. Our relationships would evolve from transaction to transformation. We would raise children who see desire not as shameful, but as a whisper of the divine calling them home. The sex drive, properly understood, is not an obstacle to holiness. It is the raw energy of creation misdirected toward imitation. When that energy is reclaimed by spirit, it becomes the power to inspire, to heal, to create. That is why the Course says that the sexual impulse is often misdirected miracle energy. It does not say to destroy the impulse, but to reclaim it. When we become willing, the Holy Spirit rechannels it upward, turning it into creative force, intuition, and compassion. The body's energy becomes the mind's luminosity. The same current that once sought to possess now seeks to bless. This is not suppression, it is alchemy, but alchemy demands honesty. We cannot pretend purity while feeding fantasy. We cannot speak of divine love while mentally manipulating others. The Course defines fantasy as a kind of subtle attack. Because it denies another's freedom. Even if it never leaves your head, it reinforces the belief that love means control. Forgiveness begins in the imagination too. When you release others from the roles you assigned them, you begin to see them truly. At first, this inner work feels uncomfortable. You may feel guilt, or confusion, or even grief as old patterns dissolve. That is natural. The ego equates intensity with love, And when that intensity fades, it screams of loss. But what fades is only addiction. Beneath it lies quiet joy. Steady, gentle, grounded. This is the joy of joining, not of conquest. It does not come and go. It simply reveals itself when we stop demanding. From this new vantage, relationships become classrooms rather than battlegrounds. Every attraction is a curriculum in perception. Every conflict is a chance to see the same light in the other. Even breakups become holy opportunities to learn that love cannot end, only change form. The Course insists that all relationships are assignments given for learning forgiveness. Nothing is casual. Each person we meet is a messenger from the divine classroom of healing. As the mind matures into miracle-mindedness, we begin to sense an intimacy that has nothing to do with proximity. You can feel joined to someone on the other side of the planet because true connection transcends space and time. You can feel tenderness toward a stranger because you recognize your shared source. In that state, the energy that once drove you toward physical possession becomes creative radiance. You walk through the world like a lighthouse. And yes, the body can still participate. Physical affection, partnership, even lovemaking can be expressions of holiness when guided by love rather than lack. What makes them sacred is not the act, but the awareness behind it. Two people who remember God while embracing create light, not karma. They are not trying to take from each other, but to give to life itself. In that sense, the body becomes transparent. Its form is used to convey something formless. At this level, sexuality and spirituality cease to compete. They fuse into one act of remembering. The mind no longer splits its devotion between heaven and earth. Heaven descends into earth through the transparency of intention. The body, which once symbolized separation, becomes a vessel of unity. The ancient fear of the flesh dissolves. What remains is simple gratitude for creation itself. Yet we must remember, this is a journey, not a commandment. The ego loves to turn spiritual insight into moral rule. It will say, "See, now you must never desire again." But the Course does not punish the student for being human. It invites the human to become transparent to the divine. Every stage of healing is honored. Even our mistakes become material for miracles when we are willing to learn from them. That is why Jesus told Helen, "You were right that sex and miracles are both expressions of life." The error lies not in the impulse, but in the distortion. That sentence could free humanity. We have spent centuries trying to suppress the energy of creation rather than understand it. The result is repression on one side and obsession on the other. The middle way is revelation, the awareness that this energy is not sinful but sacred when rightly used. How would the world change if we taught that to children? That attraction is not evil but immature miracle energy, that the body is not shameful but purposeful, that love is not limited by form? Perhaps then, human intimacy would cease to oscillate between guilt and indulgence. Perhaps then, the miracle impulse could move freely through us again, turning passion into compassion. The deepest statement the Course makes about this topic is also its simplest. Only the mind can create. The body can reflect creation, but not originate it. So when we use bodies to make love, the act is neutral until mind gives it meaning. If the mind's purpose is fear, the act becomes attack. If the purpose is love, the act becomes communication. The difference is invisible to the eye, but unmistakable to the soul. What the world calls sexual morality is therefore meaningless without a change of mind. Behavior can be chaste yet loveless, passionate yet pure. Only perception determines holiness. To the ego, this sounds dangerous because it removes external control. To spirit, it is freedom because it restores responsibility. Holiness is not about what you do, but about what you see. And so, the great paradox resolves itself. Sex and miracles are not enemies. They are twins separated by misunderstanding. Both express the same longing, to unite, to extend, to remember the oneness from which we came. The difference lies in direction. The miracle joins mind to mind. The sexual impulse joins body to body. When the direction is corrected, the power doubles rather than divides. That is the spiritual evolution of love, from possessiveness to participation, from scarcity to sufficiency, from taking to blessing. The latter does not end in abstinence, but in transparency. We do not rise above desire by denying it. We rise through it by understanding it. And when the energy finally clears, what remains is a calm, unbroken joy that needs no object. You have joined with all of life. You have remembered the source of the miracle itself. In the end, the Course's hidden sex material is not about sex at all. It is about the return of innocence to every aspect of being human. It invites us to stop dividing the sacred from the physical, the holy from the ordinary. Everything is sacred when seen truly. Every impulse, purified of fear, becomes an extension of God's love. That is the final revelation. The miracle impulse never leaves us. It simply waits to be remembered.